Hello, this is Christy. Welcome to the next part of the InDesign course for creating your art portfolio in InDesign, Adobe InDesign. And in this episode, we will start actually creating the InDesign document, deciding what page size you want to use and everything else. So if you're following this and you ended up on this video, there are two more parts before this one and quite a few after this one. I'm trying to create a course that shows you easily how to use InDesign to create your art portfolio if you're applying for a university, for an art course, and you need to present a portfolio. So we will keep our options open and we will take it easy. We will not cover useless functions, useless tools that we don't need for this particular bit. I know everybody's in a rush to create their portfolio, so my daughter was, so we ended up creating this one that you see here. I'm just going to scroll through it now. You can see all the pages here. So we will do something like this. If you want to create this in InDesign, ready to present to your art university course, to go for an interview or whatever, this is the course for you. I'm using InDesign 2021, it's called now. This is the latest version at the time of recording. In the previous episodes, we learned how to prepare the artwork, because artwork is visual, isn't it? So you need to bring in good quality images. If you want your portfolio to look nice and sharp, the previous episode showed how I take pictures of the artwork that is large and then stitch them all together. So go and watch that one if you haven't seen it, and then come in here and we will now create the document. Let's go to Adobe InDesign. If you don't have it, the link to download InDesign is in the description. You can sign up for a trial with Adobe and do your portfolio in it. You don't have to pay later. I think they have a trial version that is fully functional. This is InDesign. Have it installed. I also have Photoshop installed, which is also part of Creative Cloud, and that helps us edit our images. Of course, there are other software out there that does the same thing, but this particular course is around InDesign. The industry standard, they say. Anyway, let's not make it a long story. Create new. So in the create new in InDesign, you have this window here. The first decision you need to make before you start working on this, and it's, believe me, it's better to do it now than having to change it later, because then you have to rearrange all your stuff. The decision we made with this particular portfolio was to create it in A3 format. That's double A4s, so it's an A3. It's quite large and it makes for a nice viewing experience for someone looking at your portfolio. If the images are large and crisp, and they have no, they look like little paintings. So this was landscape A3 format. This is what we decided. Of course, you can decide something else depending on the type of artwork you do. If you do mostly portrait work, for example, you may decide to make it, portrait layout, or you want to do A4 only. This one actually gives you the option. If you do it in A3, for example, it is also then possible to print in A4, because it's just scaling it down. If you want to keep your options open and you want to have more flexibility later, I recommend you design as large as you can. So if you're designing this in A3 format, then of course you're going to have the option to print it as an A4 format. But if you're designing it in A4 and you want to then resize and print it as an A3 format or larger, your artwork may look blurry, not so crisp. It may look stretched. You may start to see pixels because you have to stretch the stuff up to match the new size. That's why I always like to work like this, keeping my options open as much as I can. If I want to do it in A3, that's great. If I want to do it smaller, that is also great, because you can scale it down when you print it with no loss in quality. Photos are not vector graphics, then they get, they lose quality when you increase the size. It's best to just keep your options open as much as you can. So that was our decision to design this in A3 format. You have the option to send it out to someone in digital format, send it on the email. You can export it from InDesign, different size qualities, a different quality, compression, all of that stuff to make for small files, large files. Even if you want to print it online on paper, then you need the best quality you can. So that was the thinking that went in when we took photos of the artwork in very large formats. We designed it in A3 and we imported the images at full quality. Let's start. Adobe InDesign, all of these common formats, they're offered to you in InDesign, but of course you have all these categories at the top here: print, web, mobile. These are the big three ones. We will focus on the print now because we want to be able to print this work on paper, and also we want to send it as a digital file. You can see here by default I'm on the European system here, so I'm getting A4. You can also change the size and do a custom one here. You can view all the presets and you can see all these other sizes here. There it is, A3 format. That's 297 by 42 centimeters. I can click on this and then here the size changes, and then I can have the orientation. So by default it's portrait, but I actually want to do landscape. So the size just swaps around, 42 by 29.7 centimeters, landscape. That's my document. Don't worry about creating multiple pages right now. You can always add more pages later. Let's just see what my document looks like. Another little detail before we go is this facing pages checkbox. Facing pages means you're going to see your document like a book if you have facing pages. In a normal book, page 1 is on the right, or the title page or the cover page, whatever you want to call it, that is going to be on the right. But then when you open the book, you have a left and a right page. If you tick this box, this is how you're going to see your document, right and left pages. So you're going to see 2 pages side by side. If you're going to create sort of like spreads and you're going to have half a document on one page and half on the other, or you want to see facing pages, you need to leave this checkbox on. If not, you just take it off and all you're going to see is 1 page at a time on the screen. That doesn't affect how you're going to actually export your document at the end. It just shows it to you so you can have an idea which page would go on the left, which page would go on the right as part of a book. But we're not creating a book right now, so I'm going to just take this option off and click create. Before that, if you want to mess up with the margins, in my case, as you can see in my design, I designed everything up to the margin, to the end margin. So I did not want to have any margins here. If I wanted to, I just put the artwork inside a little bit. You can see I have black background here. That is just a picture frame with no picture in it, just colored black, filling the entire page. This is up to you. It really depends, and I'm not gonna, give you any more advice on how to create the layout or the artistic concept of your portfolio. That is up to you, of course. This is what we did. We just kept it simple, and it's always better to keep it simple in a way because you want to let your artwork speak for itself. You shouldn't need to have too much, extra stuff around your artwork. So that's a matter of kind of philosophy if you want. Your artwork should be standing on its own. You don't want to be doing too much design, too many like frames and decorations and embellishments around your artwork, because that could maybe send the message that you don't think your artwork can stand on its own and you're kind of trying to improve it by adding more stuff. I don't think that's a good idea, but you're an artist. It's up to you, of course, to decide what you're going to put and how you're going to frame your artwork. In our case, we decided to keep it simple, keep it clean, and just let the artwork speak for itself. This is what we're going to cover in this particular series. So back to InDesign, I'm ready to create my document. I'm not going to worry about these margins. Just make sure the size is correct, the orientation is correct, and I've taken off facing pages. A3 format, create. So there you go. This is the starting document, the starting screen of my document. You can see the page that I created here, and if you don't have this layout that I do, Don't worry about it. You can reset. By default, InDesign comes with like a specific layout for the toolbars and panels with all the functions. If you want to reset that, just go to Window, Workspace, and you have these types of workspaces depending on the work you're doing. By default, I think you're getting Essentials, and of course I have kind of worked in this and I've disturbed the layout. So let me reset it now. Reset Essentials. So I'm selecting the Essentials layout and resetting it now. My document remains open, but then all of these sidebars, they are now as default, as Adobe arranged it for default. So if you do this Window, Workspace, Essentials, and then reset Essentials, you're going to end up with this layout just like I am. But all over the series, I'm just going to pull these out and switch to them and take them out and all that stuff. So you need to remember the names of stuff, not where they are located, because they may be located in a different place. And future versions of InDesign may actually put stuff in a different place. You just need to know the names and the principles. So this is my page. You can see this red sort of guide frame here. Don't worry about it. That's just like a guide you can use to show you the margins that you created in your document initially. Since I said I didn't care about the margins, I don't. The first thing to do is you want to have your data structured, your content. Before you come in here, your pictures need to be in folders, organized, named, corrected, cropped, and then you're going to have a bit of text. Maybe you want to have a little description like we did here about every artwork to help the person looking at it if you're not present. So usually when you send your portfolio to an art university or something, the course leader or whatever, they're going to look at your portfolio, and usually you're not going to be there. And I believe based on your portfolio, you may get an interview or not, and all the other things part of your application. Now, we decided that if someone was going to open this file and look at our portfolio, then I want to give them a little bit of guidance, a little bit of background information on my artworks. So like this portrait here, what is it all about? It's just a pretty lady. Okay, then there is a little bit of text on the side here that helps provide a bit of context, a bit of background about my artwork. So most of them have a little bit of text here, not too long, not too short. Try and be concise. Depending on the size, the length of your portfolio, how many pages you have, people might get bored. So it's important to don't make it hard on them by just writing a bunch of text here. And what we did was we have this title page here. So we're going to look at this now. So the title page has this nice sunflower and it has the name and this little embellishment letter, I don't know what you call this, logo maybe, that Diana made up. And this one, she keeps adding it on her works now and then. So how do we do this? Well, I have my page here in InDesign. It is empty. So I need to bring in that graphic. Let's have a look at that graphic, where it is. To make it easier, I've grouped all of the images I used in my document in a single folder here called links, and I'm going to show you how you can do that at the end. But I'm trying to find the file now that I used on the title image. Quick tip for you. Adobe includes a little tool called Bridge in Creative Cloud. If you open Bridge, this is like an explorer that allows you to browse your hard drive in the folders and find the images you need. Also shows you previews. So if I'm in Windows Explorer now, you can see all of these files are Photoshop files, but I'm not seeing a preview of them because Explorer doesn't show me a preview for all the images unless they're like JPEGs or other more common formats, but it doesn't show me previews of the Photoshop files, but Bridge does. So if I open Bridge and I navigate using the folders panel to the folder where I have my files, I can see previews of them. I can change the size of the preview using this slider down here, and I can scroll down really quickly and see the contents of the files. So in this case, look, this is the image that I used in my title page. So it's called uninspired IMG 3915 cover. This is the file. Click on it to see a preview. The reason you see this checkered background is because the background of this image is transparent. How do I get this image in my document? It's very easy. There's more ways to do it. The easiest way is to just open Bridge and kind of resize the image like that, and just click on the image wherever it is and drag it on top of your document. What this is going to do is, look, it's going to fill your cursor with that image in InDesign, and all you have to do is just click and drag on your document here like that. And there it is. Your image is in your document already. If you are not happy with the size, maybe you can also resize the frame like this to fit the entire page, and then right click on it and say fitting, fit content proportionally. There are more ways to do this. Let me show you another way. Let me just delete this, which maybe you find easier to do, is go to the file menu and select place. This is similar to like importing or something. Place, which means you're finding a file on disk, an image, and you're placing it in your document. Click on place, navigate to where your files are, and there it is. Click on the image and click open. Now again, you can see the image is not actually on the page yet, because InDesign wants you to tell it where you want it to be placed and how large do you want it to be. So what we call this, your cursor is now loaded with this image. So all you need to do is decide where it is. So if I want to make it small, I just drag a little box here, which is going to be proportional to the image that is in the cursor at the moment. So InDesign already knows the aspect ratio of the image you're trying to bring in. So all you have to now say is how large does it have to be. Click on this, release, and there it is. Your image is here. Not to worry if you made it too small. This is one little difference you need to understand. This image is inside a frame. You can see the frame here. It's blue, and it has resizing handles and everything. But look what happens. If I drag this hoping to make it larger, it's not actually doing it. It's resizing just the frame, not the actual image inside of the frame. So this is one important principle you need to learn about InDesign. Everything you put on your pages in InDesign must live inside a frame. If you have an image, it needs to be inside of an image frame. The same way that I placed this image here, I could have done it another way. Delete it. I'm going here, rectangle frame tool. Yes. So click on rectangle frame tool and create a rectangle frame. Let's call it like this. This rectangle frame now is on my page, but it's empty. You can see the cross line here through it, the X through this frame. It means the frame is empty. It has no content inside of it. If I use the selection tool here, this is the frame. I can move it around. I can resize it. And now I can place an image inside of this frame. So if you want to be sort of creating like a sketch, like an outline of your document, and you don't necessarily know what's going to come in a specific place on a specific page, you can just go ahead and create these frames all over the place. The frames are going to be like placeholders. When you're ready to bring an image in, all you have to do is just select a frame and go to File, Place. If you have a frame selected, when you have the place command, look what happens. Select the cover, open. Now the image has been added inside of this frame that I selected. Okay, so there are more ways to bring in images into your document. My preferred version is just to place it and resize it while I import it. But you can do it this way too. If your image appears to be cropped like this, not to worry. You can right click on the frame and say fitting, and then choose one of these options. You can either fit the frame, or if it's your frame is not proportional, so you may want to say fit the content proportionally, like this. So then it makes your image small to fit inside the frame. I can maybe make the frame smaller. So now my content is in here. I can't see some of it. Right click on this fitting and say fit frame to content, which is gonna make the frame the size of my content and leave my content or my image untouched. Many ways to do this. My preferred version is really just File, Place, or press Ctrl D, select the image, click Open, and then decide where it should go. In my situation here, if I don't want to decide where it should go and I want to use it at the real size, I don't have to click and drag, just click somewhere. So this is bringing the image and creates a frame automatically around my image to fit that image proportionally, no problem. In my portfolio, this image was filling the full, was in the center and quite large. The way to do that is you need to make room for it first. So I want to stretch my frame, just grab the corner with the selection tool, stretch my frame and make it as large as the page. So if I'm moving my corner to the corner of the page, notice at some point it will snap into place and it will be on the corner. Take the other corner as well, bring it down here, and it snaps into place. And now just fit my content. If I click on my content, the cursor changes to a hand, so I can move my content inside the frame. And you can see the frame around the actual picture. So my image is now quite smaller than the frame it's in. That is fine. I can manually start dragging the corners and I'm distorting my image. Look, if I drag the corners of my image inside of the frame, I'm distorting it. So I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to fit this picture inside the frame. All I can do is right click, fitting, and it says here center content, one of them, center the content, which will put the image in the center, but that doesn't make it larger. So I want it to also stretch larger to fit as much space as I can. So right click again, fitting. So you can say fit content proportionally, like this. So now my content is in the center and it fits as much as the frame allows without cropping any piece of the content. Once you get used to this, it's going to be easy. You're not even going to think about it. If I say, oh, well, I would like my content to even be closer to the edges without cropping it still, I can click on this tool, direct selection tool, click inside of the picture, and then drag and resize the image inside the frame. So when I'm happy with the size, I can right click, fitting, and say center content. So now you can notice if I zoom in here, I have gone too much and my picture is cut off because I've gone beyond the boundaries of my frame. So I can just hold down shift, resize it a bit more, and right click again, fitting, center content, like this. Yeah, so it's not equal because my image in Photoshop, it had more space on the top, I guess. So to keep it safe, I'm just going to right click, fitting, and say fit content proportionally. So now it's going to make sure that my flower does not go out of the screen, of the page, right? So if I'm not happy that this is the bottom part touches the line and here it's quite a distance away, so it's obviously not centered, click on the content using this direct selection tool, click on the content, and you can use your arrow keys to move it up visually until you're happy. And InDesign is going to just keep it in place where it is. You have your frame and then you have your content inside the frame, right? So you can position the frame, you can resize the frame, and you can fit the image inside of the frame any way you like. proportionally, centered. You can have it crop out, come back in, arrange it. The frame around the object is just a placeholder to keep the object in place. As you can see in my tutorial here, in my portfolio here, I have a white circle on top of the middle part of the flower on which I wrote the name. So how did I do that? Well, you can add another frame. It doesn't have to be a rectangle frame. If you hold down your mouse cursor on this rectangle frame tool, you will have different types of frame. An ellipse frame tool, for example. So let's select that now, click on it, and when you drag, you're creating an ellipse. I don't know if you can see it very well. Or you can hold down the Shift key to make a perfect circle. So if it's not very visible, I'm just going to pull it to the side a bit. So you can see it's a circle now. It shows it's empty. What we want to do is we want to make it white. So this is my circle frame. And when I select this using the selection tool here, it's selected. On the properties tab on the right, you have some properties that relate to that object. Like with any other object, when you select it, you have your properties panel. You can of course detach this properties panel and move it around if you need room on your screen, or if you are fortunate to have a second screen, that's even nicer. But as you can see, the appearance section here has to do with the fill, the outline, the opacity of my selected object. So you can see that the fill has a red line through it, which means my object doesn't have a fill. So all I have to do is, with the object selected, click on this icon, and this opens up a color selection swatches panel. So what I want to do is, because I want to make this white, I'm going to click on paper, which is the color of the paper, which is white, and my frame is now white. Now I can select it and move it around, place it in the middle of the page, center of the page, and it's a little large, so holding down the Control and Shift key, I'm going to resize this proportionally until I am happy with the size that it covers the center of the flower. Now it's leaving a bit of space around it, so I'm just going to make it a bit larger and move it like this until I'm happy with the placement. So this is my white centerpiece where I'm going to write the name and the title on white color. You can see the lines through it, meaning this frame is still empty. So that is not a problem. These are not going to show up in print. If you see these, they're just for you. You're not going to actually print these out when you print it. It's just going to render as a white circle. Let's see. In my portfolio here, you notice that my frame has a bit of a shadow around it. So how do you do that? It makes it kind of look a bit darker around it, so it kind of pops off the page. Very easy to do. Again, using the selection tool, click on this white round frame, and you notice here you've got effects. If you open this drop down box here, it says drop shadow. Click on drop shadow, and it's going to open a dialog box to apply a drop shadow to the object. Now if you move it to the side, and if you want to see the effects of what you're changing here, you can click on preview. So if you activate preview, you're going to see in real time when you're changing something applied to your object on the page. So by default, you can see that the shadow goes sort of to the right and the bottom right, as it is with this angle here. But what I want to do is the shadow, it needs to be all around my object equally. So I need to change the distance. So the distance is now 3.4 millimeters. I'm just going to make this 0. Press tab to move away from that box and apply the change. And you can barely see it now. If I zoom in a bit to notice it better, zoom in like that, you can see now that the outline is a bit darker. What I want to do is also to change the size of my shadow. So if I click on this size, you can notice it growing like that. Okay, you can also change the opacity from 100%, which is complete dark, to very, very light, and you can see how this changes like that. So I'm happy with it now. Let's click OK. And you may have noticed that the graphic is very pixelated. That is for performance reasons. It doesn't mean that the image you brought in to InDesign is going to render like this. So let me show you where you can change that so that you can see it as well as you can. So if you know, when you're scrolling in InDesign, it's trying to use system resources effectively. So to make things move faster, so like, you know, zooming in and out and all of that, it's displaying these images for you at a lower resolution, because really you just need to see where they are. You don't need to see them as they would show up in print. Sometimes you want to see, no, I really want to see the full detail. So to do that, you just go to the View menu and you have Display Performance here. So by default, InDesign, I think, assesses your graphics card and puts it on typical display. But if you want to have high quality display, you select this option. And look what happens. Now the graphic is much more detailed and it looks almost like the real picture behind it. So this is how you do it. You're changing on View and go to Display Performance and choose High Quality Display. So this will give you the best picture for your document. So we're getting there. Look, we've added an image to my title page and the circle. So now we will go and add the title of the portfolio. You just go to the text tool, type tool here, click on this, and like anything I said, everything lives in a frame. If you drag this now like this, you're creating a text box. Type some text, portfolio 2020. Let's just give it this name and click select to move this frame around. Obviously, I want to put this text on the middle here, so we have a little bit of placement work to do. First of all, this frame is quite large, so I'm just going to make the frame smaller, like this. So you can see my square frame. You can also do a round frame. That doesn't, you know, nobody's stopping you. But in this case, this is all we need to have. So with this frame selected, notice the properties panel has changed now to have all of these options to do with the text frame. So if you look at paragraph here, you have all these alignment modes. Click on the center. My text has moved to the center, and you also have other options. If you open this, you can expand that box there to control all aspects of your text. So this is we have centered the paragraph or the text. You can change the font here. So you can choose any font that is installed on your system. Choose something more mechanical. You can change the font size here, and you can see the changes are applying in real time. How do you make the text align vertically on the middle? So notice we have changed the horizontal alignment of the text, but that's a paragraph. But if you want to make it vertically aligned, we need to change the properties of the actual frame. You can go to the Object menu and you have text frame options here. With the frame selected, of course, your frame needs to be selected, text frame options, and it opens this dialog. So here you have vertical justification. By default, it is top. So let's turn on the preview so that we can see what we're doing and select from the align center. So there you go. The contents of the text frame are now being aligned to the center. Click OK. You can also change other things like how many columns. If you want to have a multi-column text, this is how you do it. You create multiple columns here and so on. I don't want to go into details, but click OK this. So now double click to change the text. So if I put my name here, if I press this name, so my font might be a bit funny. So what I want to do is I want to change this font because I believe this font has a problem. And there you go. First name, last name. There you go. 2 lines. You notice how the content remains vertically centered. Okay. You can of course change the font here to make it, you know, bold. I don't know. Let's say bold like that. And the portfolio text, you can leave a line between these and so on. It is up to you how you change your font in your document. So there you go. This part of the tutorial has been just a bit long, but we created the page, we created the document, we have placed content on the page, we created a frame, we imported an image, and we created a blank frame as a circle. We applied an effect to it, and we added a text box with the name. So we basically created the cover page for our portfolio. Now, of course, your cover page may be different. I just wanted to cover some of the basic functions in InDesign. On the next episode, we will create some pages with actual pictures and text frames in them. It's probably going to be similar to this, but we will also look at how you can change more text properties and how you can create text styles so that you don't have to change the font and the size every time you change the page. So in this next section, we will look at managing pages, creating more pages, adding more content, and creating an outline of our document. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. If you find these useful, please subscribe to my channel. Share this with your friends if they're in the same situation as you, having to create an art portfolio. In this series, we will cover everything we need to get the job done, create a simple art portfolio for your university. See you next time.